I realize it's not always possible to have the video on, especially if you have children in the background and you're needing to take care of things. But if you are able to have your camera on, and we do have the topic of oneness today, it would be very nice if we were able to see each other when you are able to have your camera on. Okay, I can see a few more people still coming in. And for those of us that are here and we've arrived already, let's take a moment to check that we've also really arrived. Because as yogis, we know that there's the part of us that's the physical part that shows up, and then there's the mental part, and then there's the spiritual part. And we want all three to show up. So one way to ensure that our soul or our spiritual part has also showed up and is being embodied within our physical body is to connect to our breath. So if we all take a moment, gently closing our eyes, remembering that the eyes are connected to the mind. And when our eyes are moving around a lot, it will activate the mind to become busy. And when our mind is busy, the eyes will then start moving around and become busy. So one way to get our mind to be present with us as well is to bring our eyes to a still point. And with your eyelids closed, have a sense of your eyes being relaxed behind your eyelids. You could also have a sense of lightness behind the eyelids, any releasing of pressure. And letting the mind release any expectations, the grip of any earlier conversations that happened this morning, or anything that might be on a task list to do, as much as possible, seeing if you can release the grip of the mind's general tendency to look to be busy. And feeling your sitting bones connected to the ground. We'll be talking about number one. The element related to number one is earth. So feeling the contact with the earth element at the base of your spine and your sitting bones. Feeling anchored. Let your knees relax and the muscles in your legs. And then bringing awareness to your spine, mystically known as the divine river of life. Relates to the numbers 1 and 9 as they come as a pair. So from the base all the way up to the crown. Central channel, the Sushumna, where we want our vitality to flow. You could visualize it being filled with light. And imagine that you're being gently lifted up through the crown. And then bring your awareness to the movement of your breath. With every inhaling breath, feeling or sensing yourself expanding all around you, within, to all the sides of you, the front and the back. And as you exhale, visualize or sense or experience yourself extending through the spine. And through the breath, fully inhabiting yourself, which means nothing else can inhabit you, just you within you and the God within you. And rubbing the palms together. And then bring the hands to the center of the chest, bringing the focus and the energy gathered at the heart, shoulders rolled down away from the ears, chin lightly drawn in towards the throat, feeling the extension of the back of the neck. How we hold ourselves through the spine also links to how awake and present and conscious we are. Take a long, deep inhaling breath and a full, complete exhale, relaxing deep into yourself. And again, inhale long and deep. Exhale, relaxing a little deeper into yourself. And then we will inhale to tune in. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Adgare Name, Jugadgare Name, Satgare Name, Sri Gurudeve Name. Adgare Name, Jugadgare Name, Satgare Name, Sri Gurudeve Name. Adgare Name, Jugadgare Name, Satgare Name, Sri Gurudeve Name. Inhale deep, lengthen the spine, feel your crown lifted. And exhale, relaxing your breath and relaxing your hands. Waheguru. So what we're going to do with our session this morning, I've put together some slides so we have some visuals to look at, and we've got some meditations that we'll also practice in relation to the theme. And if you do have a notebook and a pen to hand, it would be handy for sure, because it's likely that I'll call you to make a few notes, but it's not essential. It's just if you feel like writing something down. I don't assume that by the end of the class any of us will remember very much, but if we catch one or two things, then that one thing that we catch could be the one thing that we really need to work with and crystallize. So we can also trust that we catch whatever we need to catch, but sometimes it's a very nice way to process something or to have something to return to if we can write it down, and we all know the significance of the word and the vibration of the word as well. And I'm also going to talk through a few topics relating to the numbers 1 and 9. And if you want to ask something or contribute something at any time, please just unmute, say Satnam and contribute. So I don't mind being interrupted at all. Very happy for everybody to participate. So I'll just start with a little introduction about oneness, and then we'll begin our exploration of it, which of course will have its limitations, but we'll see where we go. So if we think of how many spiritual practices, actually, they talk about how the world was created from a word. And in Kundalini Yoga, we might often say from one vibration. And then when we read Japji in the morning, the first word that we speak is ik, and it means one. Very, very simple, just one. Nothing complicated about it in many ways. It's a short word, it's the first number, and it's the first step that we make when we start Japji in the morning. So we could say that one is the original source. And that's where the soul or the spirit extends from. So something that we could say about 1 and 9, but also about one and about our soul, is that it has an essence. So it has a substance to it, it has meaning, it has value. And we could think of it like a primary intelligence. And when we also chant at the end of the Mul mantra, Ard Such, Jagad Such, Hai Bhi Such, Nanak Hosi Bhi Such, Ard means primal, so the original one. So when we say Ard Such, the truth existed from the beginning of everything. So we could think of one being the beginning, just like when we tell a story, we need to start somewhere, so there's always a beginning. And then there'll be an end. All sorts of different endings that we get to experience from the books we read, the movies we watch, and the stories that we're told and we tell in life. So the ending may be different, but there's one beginning and there's an end. So we have number 1 at the beginning and number 9, the last number, big number, at the end. And so the truth existed through all time from the very beginning. So we existed from the very beginning. We were there as part of that original source and that original light, which I'm aware is also a high and lofty concept, but we're all yogis, so we're used to much of this language, but there can be something that's very high about it. And of course, we've come a long distance in many ways. So we've traveled far. We could think of our soul as being like a passenger in time and space. So we're travelers. We're here on the earth, which is number 1, but we are not of the earth. We're from somewhere else. And yet we have to come down and in to then be able to go back up. So if we think of an elevator, we have to go to the first floor, we have to go in the lift to go up, and then we have to come down to get to the ground floor. So we could think of how that elevator, we've had to come all the way down and in. And then we want to really inhabit ourselves here in this physical body, on this earthly plane. No good being staying out there, even though it might seem a much more appealing place at sometimes in life to be out there, staying out in the ethers. The fact is, for us to really crystallize our spirit and our soul in this lifetime, to really become a point of light, we've got to come down and in. And we may have all encountered some resistances along the way to that. And sometimes we might want to fly up and out again. So it's like the sayings, I don't know if you have in the Netherlands what it would be like, but in the UK, we might say they've showed up but the light's not on. There's no one in the room. And it simply means, I can see you, but there isn't something that's switched on. And it's a very common saying. And that's when we will call somebody to be present and call their attention, a little bit like for us. Our spirit might fly out a little bit, or even quite a bit, and we've showed up in our physical being, but our spirit isn't fully inhabiting us. So we want to gather that so it has the possibility to be this point of light. And any things that we do in our practice is going to also support this when we give something focus in our practice. So we need to gather that essence of what we are that makes us us. What's the essence for you to gather that makes you you? And then when that happens, that's when we can enjoy God and me and God are one. That experience of God and me and God are one, the oneness of that happens when we are fully present in ourself. We don't go somewhere outside of ourself to have that unity with the divine. It's not going to work if we keep avoiding being in our body. So there's quite a paradox there, because the teachings consistently tell us you're not of the earth, don't be attached. The bag of the body, has got to go to dust at the end, or has got to be thrown away, or very ceremoniously and kindly buried or cremated. So we don't want to over-attach with our physical body. But then we can find that the teachings are quite conceptual and lofty, so we separate from our body. But we need to fully inhabit the spirit within us. And that's when we're going to experience oneness. Because if we don't experience the oneness within us, the godliness within us, how can we acknowledge that in somebody else? So everything starts with you. Everything starts with me. Do I know what the essence is of myself? Do I have the experience of the one within me? And then when I do, then I know the one in you. And vice versa, when you experience the one within you, like really experience that and inhabit that within you, when you meet me or another person, you know that in them. So we have many sayings, of course, in all sorts of spiritual practices, and many of them are quite lofty, and we have our 5 sutras for the Aquarian age. And one of them is to recognize the other. But we can only really recognize the other, or the one, the soul, the God in the other, if we recognize it in ourselves first. So if you know your essence, then you can know my essence, and we meet one another on that plane. And the essence is the same, but how our soul travels through lifetimes, we will all have different experiences. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up a couple of pictures that we're just going to sit and meditate on for a moment, and for you to write down anything that comes up for you. So here's a picture of one dot on the screen. And it's not a test. No one's being tested here. So I invite you to relax your mind also and any pressure, and look at the dot and see what comes to you as representing number one. Just any qualities, any words. How might you describe it? What does it provoke in you? What does it bring up for you? You're also welcome to put anything in the chat if you would like to share as well. If you wanted to type any things in, and then in a moment we can see what people write. Okay, I'm going to come out of that for a moment. Let's just see. Waheguru. Okay, I'm going to read out what's coming in, and feel free to keep posting some things in, but also you are welcome to unmute and speak if you would like to use your voice. So we have big white space, life, ego, focus, composition, focus, restrictions if I see the black, focus, a sound, implosion, explosion, tension, far. We have birth. Yes, because we could also consider, what do we give birth to? And this, if we put that into the context of not just our physical body, but also this possibility to keep birthing something. Yes, if the dot is one, what is the big white space? And is the openness then difficult to reach? Yeah, it's a very good question. Yeah, oneness. That's right, because there's also something about that very small dot. And of course, we could have put anything there to represent one, but that very small dot in a huge infinity or an expansion of space, if we really zoomed out to the entirety of the whole solar system, we are very, very small. And then where does that take us, that smallness? Does it take us to feeling inferior, or can it take us to a sense of humility? Waheguru, experience of total focus, like a lake to disappear in. Yeah, birth, like the dot to consciousness, white space equals infinity. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and now bring another picture up. And exactly the same. See how this comes with what this comes up for you as well. So if we think of that one dot, it's just on its own there. It's just representing one. And now there are many, which is number 9, the many. Okay. Right, I'm going to stop my screen share and see what's come in. All right. So many comments. Stress, opportunities, joy, chaos, harmony, polarity, love, life, cellular division and expansion, and oval and jumpy and fun in a way, possibilities, together one, diversity, we are all together. Together we can be anything, any form, disperse, a dance, dynamic, moving, population, movement, mixing, souls connected, or other dancing, movement, density and non-density, expansion, centrifugal. Wow, so okay, the 9 has come in there with the many, quite naturally, because the numbers do. They find their way in when they want to come in. So if we then consider what we've seen with the 1 and now what we've seen with the many, and how we were looking at something on a screen, and then we bring that to ourselves. So if that 1 that we saw on the first slide was you, your soul, and how we relate to that when we can just see it like that outside with a picture or a diagram, that 1, and then how we relate to being 1. What's our relationship to 1? Does it feel lonely? There's only 1 dot on the whole screen, or is it very comfortable there in its aloneness? And then we come to the second slide with the many. And do we acknowledge in life how there are all of these other souls within the circle? And how do we place ourselves within that? When we see the many, what's our attitude to that? I noted Cyrodial put fun. And Cyrodial is lots of fun. And I wonder, how her experience of her soul being here on earth amongst many souls is experience that through the nature of fun. But what happens to us when we are amongst the many? Do we still feel we're present with our oneness? Do we recognize the circle of infinity with the one of many within it? And therefore there's a sense of solidarity. Wow, look at all those souls in the circle. There's a solidarity with them all. Or could it be that we feel more shy when we feel we're in the presence of many? What's our response to that, being with many souls? Do we keep ourselves in the picture, so we keep ourselves in the circle of that, rather than putting ourselves on the outside of things? Because the soul has a very solitude nature, has a beginning and it has its own end as well. You know, we come in alone and we leave alone in many respects. So we can all touch that sense of solitude within ourselves. And when it's touched, do we start to feel lonely or perhaps feel isolated? And right now, this year, we've just gone into tier 4. I didn't even know there was a tier 4. London is now tier 4. Trying to work out what that means. It seems the same as tier 3, but I'm probably missing the point somewhere along the way. We're just expanding into more restrictions in the UK right now. But, you know, we've had a year. Different countries might be responding to the circumstances differently. But we are here at this moment in time, and we're here on earth to experience being a human. We're not here to have a spiritual experience. If we agree to being spirit, we're here for the human experience. But they're interconnected. So how present is our spirit for us in these times? And we've had the word isolation, in our psyche all through the years. Are you self-isolating? Well, to some degree, probably my soul is traveling on its own anyway. So I look at it from that perspective. But then I also know if I'm really with the oneness of my own soul, I can be in the solidarity, oneness of all the other souls, and therefore I'm not isolating at all. I don't need to see anybody. I simply know that all of the souls I'm in the presence of. So this relationship between solitude and how when we inhabit that in its most spiritual sense, then we can feel solidarity with other souls. So it could even perhaps be like a healing of any sense of separation that we might have when we made that very long distance from the source down to earth. And sometimes in that distance we can feel separated, and there can be a longing for the return for that. But Guru Nanak tells us in Japji that we're here on the earth to have the experience of the divine. So it's in this body we get to know the unity with God. That's where it happens. And when we are on the earth, whenever we come into a circle together or a group together, can we arrive like a pearl on the necklace of God? If we think that we're all pearls on the necklace of God, Guru Nanak uses the most beautiful poetry. So here we all are with one continual thread, like the breath of God that moves and breathes life through all of us. And we are each a soul on that thread of God's breath. Or we're each on a garland. So if anybody would like to say anything, please do, or otherwise we'll have a meditation.
Satnam.
Satnam, where's that coming from?
Here, from Austria.
Hello. Oh, well, welcome from Austria, Satnam.
I was wondering if you will talk about this the subtle quality of 9, because it says it's also subtle, connected to the subtle body.
Yes.
Okay.
I will, but thank you for bringing that in. So you're already sensing that, Guru. I'm going to suggest we do a meditation, and very likely you've practiced this often. So if it's very familiar to you, then just invite another layer, because of course we can practice one meditation for the whole of the life anyway, and that's where we get to really master something and embody it. We're going to do the meditation I am, I am. That's our mantra. And this is to make the connection between the I am that's more related to the finite self and then the infinite in the second I am. So we're going to bring our right hand into Gyan Mudra and resting it on the knee. Remembering also that our arm and our hand is an extension of our heart. So we also open the heart when we stretch the arm. We have the heart meridian that goes through the arm. And Gyan Mudra is linked to Jupiter, the planet of abundance and prosperity as well, and expansion. So our most commonly used mudra that connects us to expansion. And then we're bringing the left hand about 6 inches away from the heart center, the chest. So we have 3 locations in this meditation. This is our starting point. When we chant the first I am, we bring the hand a few more inches in towards the heart, towards the body. So we're saying I am, and we're connecting to the very personal I am. And then we bring the hand about a foot away from the body, and we say the second I am. And this is connecting to the infinity. So the infinite, the God within us. And then we come to the starting point. And we take a short inhale here. Come in towards the heart, I am. Out, away, I am. And then back to our starting point. And the eye focus, the eyes are almost closed. You've got a little bit of opening of the eyelids, but you're looking ahead. So you're actually looking through your eyelids. It's not very comfortable to begin with necessarily, unless you're used to it. So the eyes might flicker, but you're looking ahead with the eyes 9/10 closed. Starting point, small inhale, in towards yourself, I am. Coming out, I am. Back to the starting point, and then we'll continue. I am, I am. I am, I am. then bringing your hand to the starting position. Gently close your eyes and take a long, deep inhaling breath. Lightly holding the breath, being aware of the energetic connection between yourself, your hand, and the energy field you've built up through the movement. And exhale, relax the hands, staying quiet within yourself for a moment with your eyes closed. You're very welcome to share if anybody noticed anything between this movement from being close to the self, the more personal self, and then the more infinite aspect of the self. If you noticed anything you'd like to share, please feel free before we move into number 9. So yeah, Siridrell's put, definitely felt the oneness both to the self with a small s and the self, the bigger, infinite self. A warm embrace. Very nice feelings, closeness, sensing my heart, my soul, feeling connected. Love the heart space. Progressively more relaxing. Wow, all of those are such interesting points that you've come up with, very calming. Because if we think of how all yogas talk about the heart center as being the doorway to the soul, so our breath is linked to consciousness, and that's conscious of something. So what are we conscious of? And are we really breathing into our heart? So when we do that, it opens up that doorway to the soul. So rather than just our automatic breath that is keeping us alive and keeps us very much in relation to our physical body, we go into another layer of the breath through our yogic breathing and our conscious breathing, and open the door to the soul, and then we have that sense of oneness and unity. And a point here, progressively more relaxing. Osho said something really very interesting. Well, he said lots of things that were really very interesting. And if you enjoy Japji and you'd like to know more about it, he wrote a wonderful book on Japji called True Name. It's an exquisite reflection on each of the puris of Japji, but he's a very insightful teacher as well. And he once said that practicing yoga, as in the physical aspect of yoga, does not bring you to God. He said what it actually does, when you think of our kriyas in our practice, we're working things out. It's got a lot of the Shakti dimension within it as well, which allows a cleansing to happen, like how lots of our beliefs, our karmic habits and patterns are very much in our muscular system, which is connected to our psyche and our psychology. Which is why sometimes our mind might fight when we're in a posture, and we can feel the contraction in the body because we're struggling to let that go, or the mind is struggling to let something go, an attachment of some kind. But we keep up with our kriyas, and working through that, and then we exhaust those patterns and those habits and those beliefs, we can sometimes find we drop something very readily in a kriya that maybe we'd taken ages, that we had been working through. So he said it's not the physical yoga that brings us to God, it's that we exhaust ourselves. We exhaust the patterns and the attachments and the locking in of the ego. So then we come into a state of relaxation. And when we're in that state of relaxation, that's when we make the connection to the oneness. So relaxation, it's going to be bringing in number 9. 1 is very focused, concentrated. It's all of the potential in the seed, can have an intensity to it. It's an impulse. And then the 9 can be expressed sometimes as pressure, when we feel like a pressure coming down or inside, but also it's relaxation. And in this place of relaxation, we can expand and connect to the oneness of everything. So someone said very calming as well. So, it's a great practice to not just do our practice of meditations, but catch something of what's happening with the movement, with the mantra, and how it enables something to shift within us and how we progress through something as well. Number 9 being the end of the journey is endurance and how we climb the mountain and this sense of progression. And sometimes we can get close to the end and feel like I've just had enough, almost to the top. And then it's like, that's it, I've got no more steam left. We're on the rung down, needing a cup of tea, and we don't want to move any further. And sometimes it can be, our soul comes around and around and around. And if we've got a strong connection to number 9, if we have a strong connection to our subtle body, it can be that anyway, we have this feeling like, oh no, not again. I've got to go through it again. I'm tired. So there's something of the 9 that sometimes can feel quite tired, but it can also feel this sense of calmness. So we'll all have a different relationship to these qualities. So, our practice is really to bring them into balance. And as the number 9 came in beforehand, was mentioned, I'm going to share my screen again. So keeping in mind number 9, the many. We'll come back to those. When we had our first lockdown in March, every day I used to go and walk. I live on the Thames, so we call it the beach, but it's not really quite the seaside, it's the Thames. You don't want to swim in there. But I used to go for a walk along the beach every evening after teaching, and a neighbour had taken this photo of me sitting on the beach. It's not anything about me here really, but just this sense of, wow, when she mailed me this photograph, I thought how small we are, how very small we are. But then there's also all of those grains of sand and all of those pebbles. So all of the sand is also representing the many of the number 9. And then there's a person there, just one person on the beach. Perhaps, someone might look and think that person looks very lonely. What a shame. Got no one to go for a walk with, all on their own. But that person might be actually really enjoying that sense of being one with everything, feeling the solitude of that, it being touched. So the one and the many, always present. And I thought I'd put in a few pictures of the stars. And that's really when we get to see like the many and the wonder of that. And number 9, being many, If we can think about on the earthly plane and creatures, ants, they work as a collective. They work together with one purpose, like going to pick up a leaf or whatever it is that they might be doing in their day-to-day business. But they have their one goal, and they all work as a collective, the many hands. And this is a swarm. In fact, I don't think it's called a swarm, but many starlings that somebody captured really gives that sense of, wow, the intensity of how the many can also be. And then the honeycomb from the beehive. Oops. Okay, so if we come to 1 and 9, and I'm aware many of you will be familiar with this picture or this diagram. It's a very much used diagram in Karam Kriya, the exploration of life through numbers and numbers through life, and it's a perfect example of 1 and 9. So we have two curves, and the top curve in the left-hand corner, we have the number 9. And the number 9 is the subtle body. We have 10 spiritual bodies for anybody who might be present this morning and isn't aware of that. But there's lots online to read about the 10 spiritual bodies from the Kundalini Yoga practice. And number 9 is the subtle body. And we could consider this more in relation to spirit, if we think of spirit being more universal, a bit more dispersed, connected to the expansiveness of everything, and how the soul travels in the capsule of the subtle body between the lifetimes. So if any of you have seen the movie E.T., it's often on over Christmas. I've already looked, and we're not showing it in the UK for some reason, but I'm sure we can all find it. If you've never seen the movie, I don't know if it's translated into Dutch and into other languages. I'm sure it must be, but it was made, I think, in the 80s with a young Drew Barrymore. And it's about an alien called E.T., and he comes down in his spaceship to land on Earth, and he wants to have the experience of knowing what it is to be a human and to be on Earth. And he lands in a garden, and he makes friends with a little boy and a little girl and the family. And so while he's here on Earth, he gets to know all about what it is to be a human being through the family. And then one day, E.T. comes and says it's time for him to go home. And so he says goodbye to the family, and he gets in his spaceship and he goes back home. So this is a great example of the soul in the subtle body, how the soul travels, just like E.T. in a spaceship, travels in the capsule of the subtle body and comes down to Earth. And we have the experience here on Earth that we have, and the imprint of the soul's experience on Earth is then placed into the memory of the subtle body. And then at some point in time, our prana runs out, and it's time for us to return. And we go back up to the ethers. We leave our physical body. But we have this opportunity while we're here on Earth to gather any fragments of our spirit whenever we're not fully inhabiting ourself. We have this potential to bring our soul to a crystallized point of light. And Carl Jung, who was a practitioner of Kundalini Yoga, and he once wrote a book on Kundalini Yoga, a very well-known psychoanalyst, and he spoke about it as individuation. So same thing, he just used a different term for it. We have the dispersion that comes with the 9, but we have this possibility to become this single pointed point of light. And part of that possibility is through our practice when we bring ourselves into focus. Focus on a mantra, focus on the breath. Archer pose, focusing on the tip of the thumb, but not just the tip of the thumb. We connect to the infinite beyond, the vastness beyond the tip of the thumb. All the things that we might do in our life to bring us into focus. If we have a very strong connection to the subtle body and this sense of the many and a much sort of higher, loftier realm, we might also have many, many ideas. So it could be for any of us this morning, we can ask ourselves, do we tend to be flooded with lots and lots of ideas, but we struggle to pick one to make it happen and complete it? So we need to bring something into focus. So when we have an idea to do a project or anything in our life, if that feels as well aligned with our true self, and we allow that to come through to completion, and we endure through the challenges that come up, and we work through it, and we keep up, and there we go. We come right to the end. The idea is completed. This is one of the many ways that we can practice this or give some focus to it. So in the top curve, we've got the more spiritual realm. And then we can see in the bottom curve, in the left corner, I've written one cell. So we begin with one cell, which then divides and multiplies. So multiplication is also very much associated with 1 and 9. And we go through the earthly experience to eventually, we're going to leave our physical body, and it's going to go into all of the particles of dust. So the completion of our life then there with the 9 on the physical earthly plane is that either our body is put into the earth and is going to fragment in that way, and or the little creatures will take little parts of it and so on, and there's a breaking down in that way, or we'll be cremated, for example, and then we're all experiencing all the many, many fragments of the dust. And along the way, we have this possibility of meeting the teachings, so that through the life we don't only identify with our physical realm. Because if we only identify with our earthly body and our mind, which is also matter as well, the 3 gunas are related to the mind, tamas, rajas and sattva. And the Guru tells us to go beyond these. The one who becomes liberated is the one who acknowledges the existence of them, but can go beyond. So when we come to meet the teachings in our practice, we get quite a reorientation. The teachings continually call us. Be aware of your breath. Open the doorway through your heart to the soul. So then we change our focus and our direction and our investment to the spiritual plane and this possibility of becoming the crystallized point of light. Which doesn't mean to say we don't take care of our body and we don't look after ourselves and we don't give our mind things to enjoy engaging with. We're not here to avoid that, but our focus is invested in that oneness and knowing that oneness, so that when it comes our time to leave, we're not still attached to the body, but we've fulfilled something in the spiritual plane. So if we were putting some numbers in there with the 1 and you wanted to make a note, we can think of 1 being the focus, this concentration, the potential our soul has coming to earth. What does it want to express? What's the potential within each of us, and how are we meeting that? It's the primary intelligence, and it says, I exist. The soul has a little voice, and often the mind and the ego kind of override it completely. with all of our wants and our worries and everything else. But there's that little voice of the soul that's strong, actually, and saying, I exist, I have a purpose here on the earth, I have gifts and talents to share. And it's also the guide, so we could think of it like the guiding light, the ik within us, the guiding light. And then our subtle body connected to the many, so it means that we can sometimes feel very dispersed or very vague. Maybe we notice that in others as well, somehow very scattered and fragmented, not very focused, or find it hard to focus. So we need to call on the one to support the nine. So we can also not spend our time always feeling dispersed. And then it's got the sense of completeness. And the soul is very happy when we fulfill something to completeness. And the virtue of number 9 is peace. So that also relates to calm. A few of you used those terms in the chat. And relaxation. Are we relaxed? Because our subtle body, if we think of it as our home, it's also the question of, do we feel at home within ourself? And when don't we feel at home? You know, are we comfortable? We have a saying in the UK, or are they at home in their bones? We could think of number 1 and 9 like the bones, you know, the bones of us that last a very long time. They're always finding new bones actually in the UK, and I'm sure it's everywhere. You know, we've got a real interest in looking at our ancestry through the bones as well. But this sense of being at home in our bones, that saying means, are we just at home in ourself? Which means we can go to the other side of the world in a completely different type of environment, but we still feel at home. And what stops us feeling at home? Do we feel at home right now in this moment? Just at home, relaxed in ourself. And we can ask that any time of the day, because when we are at home within ourself, that's when our gifts and our talents have the opportunity to also be manifested in the world. So that was a whole load of information, and I'm going to put you into little groups. So I'm going to create some breakout rooms. Just be as honest as you feel you would like to be. We've tuned in, we're in a sacred, confidential space as well. So we are in good company with one another, and having just a check-in with one another about what caught anything for you, and especially this sense of being at home in yourself. And when you recognize you're at home and you can feel that solidarity with your own soul and with others, and you know how your life is when you are in that, and linking it to the sense of having natural gifts and talents, because the gift is 1 and 9. We can think of 9 like the womb, like the spaceship. It was our first home in the mother's womb. But our subtle body is also our home, and there are gifts that are talents that we each have. Do we allow our talents to come into the world? And they're things that come easy to us. They're not hard work. We might be over there looking at the talents of somebody else, thinking, I wish I had those talents. Like we see somebody who's just got a natural talent as a dancer. And in our mind, we think, I'd like to be that. So we keep signing ourselves up to all these dance classes and so on, thinking, I'd love to be a professional dancer. I can visualize myself in the ballet and on the stage and so on. But it might not be our natural talent. It could be something that we enjoy, but it might not be something that is really there for us to flourish as our gift in life, but we're busy looking over there when we've got something so natural that comes to us. It's so natural, we don't think it can be a talent because we think we've got to work hard at it. Something that's easy for you, allows you to feel comfortable in your life, that other people undoubtedly will recognize, but we often don't. So I'm going to create some breakout rooms of maybe 3 people. I know a few people have said they're maybe not able, someone's got a difficulty with their mic. So hopefully if I put groups of 3, at least 2 of you might be in the group. Okay, it's 3 to 4 people in a room, and we'll have 10 minutes and then I'll call you back. Let's just see that that works. You just get a message to join. I like the sound of the tea room. I'm not entirely sure what room I might be in. I guess I'm not with anybody. Okay. Well, festival team, if you're there and you can hear, thank you very much for being there. So now, welcome back. That worked. Waheguru. You never completely know. We're going to practice a meditation, keeping in your heart whatever you extract, whatever essence you want to keep from your conversations in relation to the topics. And this is a guided visualization meditation. And it's for the soul and especially for the subtle body. It creates a magnetic field for the psyche, but also really connects to the subtle body. There's a particular position that you're going to be in with your hands. So just make sure you're sitting comfortably with your lower body. Even if you're in a chair, then that's also completely fine. So your lower body is relaxed. If you need a cushion to sit on, so your hips are lifted and your knees then are going to be relaxed. Both hands are in Gyan Mudra. The left elbow is going to be to the side of the ribs, and you're at an angle of about hopefully as close as possible to 45 degrees. The palm is facing up, your fingers ahead, and you're at 45 degrees. Your right hand is also in Gyan Mudra, and it's lifted further forwards. So from the side, you can see my wrist is at a level with the top of my middle finger. It's at the same angle. And you're holding this mudra in position, being as still as you can. So both of the arms are in front of you, but you can see your right hand is extended further away. Your eyes are closed. Connect to your breath for a moment. And just being aware of the angle that you have with your arms. Our mind is connected to angles, and our practice is about angles and triangles, so maintaining the angle. And this meditation is about connecting to the entire universe. So as you sit with your eyes closed, bring before you the image of a blue sky, a dark blue sky, as if it's going into evening time towards night time. And a bright evening star that you can see. So allowing yourself to create that image of a bright star and concentrate on this star. So you're imagining an evening sky, the bright deep blue of the evening sky, and imagine a huge evening star. Create this scene with your intuitive mind. Keep it perfectly before your closed eyes and hold your concentration. Let your breath move freely and naturally. And this evening star is called Venus. Imagine that a beam of light is coming from this star far away. And it is making a pathway directly to your heart center. You can walk on the pathway. You can walk to the star. Now imagine yourself stepping onto this beam of light. And imagine yourself walking on this beam of light. May feel like a very long walk to a very far away star. Keep walking towards the evening star. Keep connected to the beam of light that's making a pathway for you, beaming from the star right to your heart center. Keep going and make this a reality, to give yourself an experience of walking on a beam of light and connecting to the lightness within you. And as you continue walking, also being aware that you're sitting in a posture that's locking you to the magnetic field of your body, which is giving you the power to transform, to transfer yourself into the subtle body. And it's the subtle body that gives you the power to walk on the beam of light. And let yourself feel the lightness. And bringing your body to a calm stillness. Keep your focus on the bright evening light shining in the middle of the evening sky, because this evening star is Venus and it represents the love of the heart. Let the huge beam of light hit your heart center. And as you continue, you're going to start chanting out loud a mantra. And the mantra is, I am beautiful, I am light. And as you chant it, be aware of really pronouncing the word. So you're aware of the movement of your lips, you're aware of your mouth, the cave of the mouth that we can make love with the divine through when we chant, connecting beauty and light. So as you continue walking on this beam of light, keeping your concentration on the path you're walking, continue chanting aloud, I am beautiful, I am light. And for the last minute, continue chanting, but imagine that you are announcing to the whole world, I am beautiful, I am light. And staying as you are in your stillness, take a slow, deep, relaxed inhaling breath. And then lightly holding your breath, don't lock it down. Experience that oneness with the beautiful bright light in the beautiful sky. Have oneness with it or a sense of oneness. Stay as you are, exhale. And again, slowly inhale very deeply within yourself. Hold the breath of life and feel all the energy coming from the beam of that star at your heart center. As you are, exhale. Inhale again. Holding the breath and feeling it as part of your soul. Connect your life, your soul, and your life breath, making them into one and into oneness. Stay as you are, exhale, and then lightly hold the exhaling breath out. Inhale, exhale, keeping the eyes closed but relaxing your hands in any comfortable position. Stay connected to your breath. Let the concept of I am beautiful, I am light fill you and surround you. And taking a moment, and especially if you have your notebook there and you wanted to write something down, considering next year is 2021 and we have the one, the seed. Write anything down that you would like to seed into next year for you. Something that links to your heart feeling full, that gives your soul nourishment, to any gifts and talents that you have. What would you like to seed and plant and allow to come into fruitfulness next year? keeping in mind that whatever you write down of your gifts and your talents, and if we put this into the context of the many, and the one in the many, and the multifaceted nature and expression of the divine, that by allowing our gifts and our talents to shine in the world does not prevent anybody else's gifts and talents from shining in the world. If we think of the wholeness through all of us in humanity, that if we have the courage to step forward to allow our light to shine, then that could inspire others to also allow their gifts and their talents and their light to also shine. So it does no purpose for us to not allow ourselves to really shine brightly. Our contribution to the upliftment of humanity and the radiance of light in the world is when we each allow ourselves to shine. And we're going to close by singing the mantra Hami Hum Brahm Hum. We are we and we are one. So bring your left hand to your heart center and your right hand on top. Being very aware of all the jewels and the gifts that are present and easily accessible through our conscious breath and the investment that we give into our spiritual self, into the God that breathes life into us, who only wants us to shine in the world. When the singing begins, just sing along from your heart.
We are we and we are one. 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 Hami Ham Ram Ham. 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 We are we and we are one. 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 Hami Ham Ram Ham. 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 We are we and we are one. 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 Hami Ham Ram Ham. Hami Ham Ram Ham. Hami
Keeping your hands on your heart, allowing the vibration of the words to dance in your cells, along your spine, in your heart. Remembering that the practice we have is to come into the very core and heart of our being. And then bring the hands into prayer pose, keeping the focus and the energy gathered at the heart center. We'll close with the long time sun and 3 Satnams. Inhale. Exhale, relax into your heart. And we'll inhale to sing. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on, guide your way on, guide your way on. Sat Nam. Sat Nam. Sat Nam. And may we remember that we come from the light. The source of what we are, our essence is light. And that we are here on earth to embody, expand and share that light. And may we be able to walk through our lives with a lightness of touch, a lightness of being. And may we all be blessed with prosperity, with love, and with peace. Sat Nam. Waheguru. Thank you very much for joining and for a lovely morning, and